theological questions that you have. Any wonderings as our theme for this month is on wonder. The box looks like this. It says create your own happiness, but I'd like to call it, sorry, did somebody say something? Oh, okay, create your own wonder. We can do that. We can create our own wonder and your own wonderings, and it'll be right there on the table after the service, and you are invited to drop in your theological questions. If you're joining us online, a warm welcome to you. Won't you take a minute to share the link to the service with your friends and family? And there's a link to the theological question box virtually in the chat. See how we do that? And now, if you would join me, the second Sunday of the month, we read together our congregational covenant. Each one of you should have a slip of paper or an ability to share the slip of paper. If you don't, raise your hand. Oh, there we go. Could we have Marty or some of the ushers bring through the covenant so we can read it collectively together? Can we share? Marcy, can we ask for a few more copies of the covenant? Thank you so much. We'll. Thank you. Marty is upstairs. Okay, thank you. So let us begin. Love guides this congregation. Love calls us daily to acts of liberation grounded in anti-racism. We affirm that we live in the complexity of intersectionality and that building healthy and loving relationships is a spiritual practice requiring both inward and outward focus. Thus, we covenant to listen deeply, speak compassionately, express gratitude, and embrace our unique diversity. We endeavor to communicate honestly and with compassion, particularly when we are in conflict. When we hurt one another, we will try to make amends, forgive, and reconnect with an intent to repair, change, and grow. Our purpose is to be radically inclusive, feed the human spirit, and heal the world. In celebration of the common purpose that unites us with the aspiration of beloved community before us, we will do our best to abide by this covenant. Let us worship together.
Good morning. My name is Nisa Iwama, and I'm the Director of Music Ministry. So happy to be here this morning with everyone, especially with our choir. Thank you so much for lending your voices and your spirits, and thank you, John O'Neill, as always, for bringing your musicality. We're going to start this morning by singing hymn 225, O Come, Emmanuel, in observance of Advent. So I invite you to stand in body or spirit and join in singing.
To Albert Einstein taught, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. What if for this hour, beloved, we held the ought to be, should be, never be at bay? Keep it there for just 60 minutes with the predicted spreadsheets and charts that tell you you already know the conclusion to the story. Instead, now listen for new story. Take nothing for granted in this moment. The air inhabiting our bodies, the dust of ancestors settling at our feet, the trees past the window transforming our exhale waste into life. Or you, beloved, taking heaps of bad news, heartache, and tough days, and still finding the muscles to laugh again. Enjoying the taste of that favorite meal, falling in love again, listening for a new tune that twirls through your heart. Sourcing hope again. Us, miracles in the making. Come inhabit with me, with us, the wonder of what if could be, just might be, maybe. As we kindle this light of our faith, as well as the lights of the Advent wreath.
So, do I have somebody who'd like to come and open up our Wonder Box? Anybody? Stanton, come on up. Come on up, Stanton. Oh, thank you for bringing us the Get Such a Table box. Go ahead and open the box. Oh, what do you find? These two things. Well, can you take them out and show them to everybody? What does this one look like? This one.
An elephant.
Very good. And what is that one? This one? Does it remind you of anything? Have you read any books that have an elephant and a piggy in them? Uh-huh.
I have read books on elephants that have an elephant in them, but I don't know about the pig.
All right. Well, let's find out a little bit more. Thank you so much, Stanton. You may go back to your seat.
Thank you, Stanton. Well, our story today is indeed inspired by the work of Mo Willems, if you were guessing. And the story, Waiting is Not Easy, as well as the ministry and reinterpretation of the story by the Reverends Ali Casey Bell and Dana Edwards at our congregation, Cedar Lane.
Gerald, I have a surprise for you.
I cannot wait.
But you have to wait. You have to wait.
But I cannot.
Oh, Gerald, it's going to be a great surprise.
So I will have to wait?
Yes.
Oh, no. Oh, well, I can wait. I am waiting. I am waiting. Waiting is not easy. I hate waiting. Oh, Piggy, this won't be worth it. Let me see. I can do this. I can't.
It's going to be worth it. I promise you. You just have to wait a little bit more.
Piggy, we have waited all day. It is almost night. You really don't have a surprise for me, do you? You have tricked me, Piggy.
Relax. It's almost time, Gerald. I think it just might be the moment. Are you ready, Gerald?
Oh, I'm so ready. I'm so ready. I'm so ready, Piggy.
All right.
Piggy.
All right. Let's go over here and see.
Piggy. The stars are beautiful tonight.
Told ya.
You were right. Oh, Piggy, it was worth the wait. I can't wait to show you the sunrise tomorrow.
We're gonna do it together. Thank you, Gerald. Now, can somebody tell me, thank you. Why did we tell the story? There are a couple clues before the service, before the story. Anybody? Yes, go ahead, Jean. Because it's Advent and we are waiting in anticipation. Today is the third Sunday of Advent. In the Christian calendar, it is a time of waiting, preparing, and expecting before Christmas Day when the birth of Jesus is celebrated. For 4 weeks, there is a holy waiting and excitement, not just for presents, but the hope that this year something magical can happen. Something hopeful, something joyful, something wonderful by our learning how to get ready, how to wait, and how to look for the sparkle. So let's help each other remember to wait with anticipation and look for the sparkle. Here ends our story for all ages.
Good morning. I'm Jeannie Siegel, a chaplain here at Beacon. Beacon chaplains extend the care of our community, the spiritual care of our community, and one of the rituals of spiritual care is our candle lighting service, where we light candles of joy, of sorrow, and of gratitude. Today, we are going to light a candle, a memorial candle, for Sue Goodman, who is Director of Religious Education here at Beacon, 1981 to 1984, who fought a lengthy battle with dementia and passed away. Reverend Robin officiated at the graveside burial last Friday. We also are going to light a candle for Dorothy Pittman Hughes. Dorothy was a Black feminist, a child advocate, and actually, I didn't know this, but the co-founder of Ms. Magazine with Gloria Steinem. She died at the age of 84 a few weeks ago. We're going to light a candle of sorrow for the continuing decline in public trust that has caused, in part, the rise of extreme political positions, the repressive actions of governments, and in some cases, violent conflict. And a candle of gratitude for the release of Brittany, right, her safe return, and efforts that are being made to bring Paul Whelan and others home. A day of recognition to all the many people who celebrated Bodhi Day on December 8th, which honors the Buddha's enlightenment. And lastly, a candle of joy, because as most of you know, we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of Beacon's partnership with the Unitarian Church of Baroque, and that partnership has led to many benefits and much joy. For this and so much more, We invite you now to come and light a candle, either here in the sanctuary, at your home, or anywhere you might be.
Go ahead, baby. Oh, it's already lit. You're good. You're just doing it again. That's great. Exciting.
Would you settle with me, beloved, into the space in which you find yourself? Perhaps in this time, resting feet to the floor, maybe hands find a soft spot resting on your lap, open. As you take in a deep breath, if you can, if it's a place of ease, on the exhale, try to find a softness, and yet bringing your spine upward a little, rolling shoulders back. As we breathe here, surrounded by the sounds of life, just give a moment to scan your body and see if there are any places of tenderness or tension that need some warmth and care. As we breathe together now, I invite you to imagine yourself at the edge of some body of water. Perhaps it's a pond or a river you know well. It might be sitting in the sand as the ocean tide goes out. And as you see yourself in this space, notice if within you there is a worry or a to-do. Maybe you're making that list right now. Maybe it's a judgment, a harshness that you've put against yourself. And I want you to imagine in this place that you write whatever that is on a piece of paper. You notice a small toy boat, the kind that you might have played with in the bathtub when you were a child. Tuck that piece of paper into the boat. And as you are ready, I want you to lift that boat and place it in the water. And as that tide or current pulls it away from you, imagine that harshness, that judgment, that worry, that to-do, also pulling away from your heart and your mind, your very being. Take one more moment at the edge of this water, present to the peace that is here, knowing you can return whenever you might need it. Using that breath once more, draw your awareness back to this place, to those that are gathered here.
We're going to sing hymn number 389, which is Gathered Here. And I'm going to have the help of the choir because we're going to do it as a round, which means we'll split off into parts. I feel like with having the choir here leading singing from downstairs, and I'll do a part from upstairs, we'll work together on this. We can all start together. Here we go. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Let's try it again. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour,
for organizations working to alleviate hunger and homelessness. Among them include SHIP, or Summit Helping Its People, and here today is our own Ted Brewer to discuss their important work.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Ted Brewer, pronouns he, him, and I'm here, as Robin said, to speak briefly about Summit Helping Its People. She gave away the name here. Sorry, Ted. SHIP is one of the nonprofit organizations addressing food and shelter insecurity right here in our community, and it will benefit from your generosity today. It was founded over 30 years ago with the support of this congregation and other Summit houses of worship, and has continuously provided weekday breakfasts and lunches and weekend dinners to its patrons. Because of COVID, both the weekday and weekend programs have operated on a takeout basis since March of 2020, but SHIP is taking steps to resume indoor breakfasts and weekend fellowship dinners as soon as it's prudent to do so. Friday breakfasts have moved indoors on a trial basis, and so far so good with that. The current location is Calvary Church on DeForest Avenue, and daily patronage runs between 20 and 30 people. There's no question that SHIP is meeting the needs of some folks in very difficult circumstances, including many unhoused individuals. There's also no question that SHIP's patrons are very grateful for the wholesome meals they receive. Some of you faithfully volunteered at SHIP to serve the weekend dinners at Oak Center before the pandemic. I'd be remiss if I failed to acknowledge that steadfast dimension of support for SHIP Beacon folks have provided over the years. And I hope it won't be long before those Saturday and Sunday indoor fellowship dinners resume, and we can once again volunteer for that. Please contribute as generously as you can this morning. You'll not only be maintaining Beacon's long tradition of supporting SHIP, but also, and more importantly, putting nutritious meals in hungry mouths, meals SHIP patrons count on and for which they are, as I noted, deeply grateful. And thank you.
Thank you, Ted. Our morning offering will now be most gratefully received.
This song is called I'm Gonna Walk It With You, and it was introduced to me actually by our own congregant Mia Morse, who thought it would be a great song for Beacon, and I think once you hear it, you will understand why.
It might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. I'm gonna walk it with you. I'm gonna walk it with you. I will walk, I will climb, shine my light the whole night through. Because it looks like it might be a hard road, but I'm gonna walk it with you. Signify the way, illuminate the night, celebrate the day, magnify the light, turn away the night, pour the golden rain, celebrate the night. There's no night to dark, no sky to gray, there's no storm too strong to cloud my day. There's no road too long, no hill too high, there's no sea too deep to keep from the light. Thank you, choir. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you, choir. Thank you, John. Thank you, Misa. Oh my goodness. I went in the tech room so I could see everyone up close. It was so exciting. Well, I was feeling a little sleepy, if I'm honest, at the start, but I'm not now. How about y'all? You awake now? I guess we'll keep doing this thing. December 8th, also my birthday, is the day commemorating the Buddha's enlightenment. Just a coincidence, I'm sure. But it did remind me of a story. It's one often told in Buddhist teaching, of a student who's a little bit frantic, shall we say, trying to understand so many of the teachings. He studies deep into the night, and still he finds in his practice nothing is changing. In fact, he's having a harder time in meditation than he was when he starts off. Finally, the student gets so flustered that he asks his teacher, could they have a special meeting? Because something is wrong. He just can't understand this thing called enlightenment. So the teacher relents and says, why, yes, and invites the student to his office later that afternoon. The student walks into the teacher's study. You can imagine him flustering about as he would, exasperated, and the teacher is there calmly waiting the student. "Would you like some tea?" the teacher asks. Sure, says the student, and then sits down and begins to just go through the list of things that he doesn't understand and how hard he's been studying and what is wrong with the practice. Meanwhile, while the student goes on and on, the teacher keeps pouring. The student keeps going onward, and at last the teacup overflows, spilling out onto the floor. It's then that the student finally notices and says, "What are you doing? My cup is too full to pour any more tea into it." And so it is with your mind, my friend. For a long time, I thought that the concept of beginner's mind, that this story was saying that we ought to empty our minds of everything we know, start over, forgetting everything. But how could you unlearn, unknow, unexperience everything and just make your mind a blank slate? Of course, as the years go on, I understand it to be more about emptying oneself of ego, of developing a practice of waiting and discerning the right moments. Great artists do this with ease. Beethoven once described composing music as this: "I carry my thoughts with me for a long time, sometimes a very long time, before I know to set them down." John Lennon, on his creative process and the criticism that he received that he disappeared after the birth of his son with Yoko, said this: "There's a Zen story that Yoko once told me. A king sent his messenger to an artist to request a painting. He paid the artist money, and the artist said, 'Okay, come back.' So a year goes by, and the messenger comes back and tells him, 'The king is waiting for your painting.' And the artist says, 'Oh, hold on,' and whips it up right there in front of him and says, 'Here.' And the messenger says, 'What's this? The king paid you $20,000 for this crap, and you knock it off in 5 minutes?' And the painter replies, 'Yeah, but I spent 10 years thinking about it.'" John Lennon concludes, "There's no way I could have written the double fantasy without those 5 years of disappearing." Skillful spiritual waiting is not about releasing everything you know and experience, but perhaps about holding it lightly enough so as to know the right moment to release it. Yesterday, the Board of Trustees held a deep dive. We have this practice of gathering quarterly to go deeper on a topic that can't be covered in the entirety of a 90-minute monthly board meeting. We have 90-minute meetings, right, Marcy? Yeah. Now, this will be hard for you all to believe, but I feel passionately, frequently, about all manner of things. Shocking. So before this deep dive, Marcy shared with me that I ought to keep an open mind and take a fresh look at things and not enter into this meeting with a presupposed conclusion. Now, she said this in a larger meeting, but it was a little like this: we should all keep an open mind as we go into this meeting. I had already planned this sermon and the topic on waiting and beginner's mind, and I was pretty sure a plot existed in the universe at that time. So I opted to take a listening posture for me. You know, still am who I am. And suddenly yesterday, when I wasn't trying to advocate my opinion or advance a particular plan or idea, I heard things I'd never heard before. some things more missional, some things truer than certainly my own narrow vision, my mind could put together. And what's more, these disparate events and bits of news that I have been experiencing across these last few months and even years seemed to crystallize in that moment in a way that any pre-thought plan never would have. Waiting is not easy, to quote Gerald the elephant. And knowing what to release and how is lifetime work. When Anne-Marie and I were considering having our first child that turned out to be children when I had twins, we had to meet because we were in North Carolina and the laws were a bit discriminatory then. So as a same-gender couple, we had to meet with a therapist to assess our parenting. And one of the questions she asked in the course of not a very great session of therapy was, have you played this tape to the end? Of course, Anne-Marie leaned in and said, there's a tape? Of course, there was no tape. There was no way of playing it to the end and predicting all of the outcomes. And it became a joke between us. When things are hard, we should have played the tape. Life is filled with things to worry about to keep us from this kind of spiritual waiting. There's always a test that requires a follow-up, a kid who isn't doing well in something, a move to be made, a job that hangs in the balance. Life is never always stars and sunrises, and you all know that better than I do. Life is the endurance of the day-to-day waiting and holding these disparate pieces of information, of wisdom, lightly for the moment to release it. I think about my own story with finding my biological mother. Some of you know this story, that I had searched for years and years, filled out all the right forms. She, on her end, had also filled out all the right forms, and I am sure there are some well-filled out forms lost somewhere in someone's filing cabinet. I had made moves, contacted a private investigator, and then, after all the years of trying, I'd given up. And I was driving here to Beacon one morning when NPR was on, and they explained how a new law had changed in New York State, and how anyone adopted in New York State was now entitled to their original birth certificate. And in 10 seconds, while I pulled over, because one ought to not keep driving when monumental life events happen. And suddenly, everything after all of that trying, all of those pre-thought plans, and after at last concluding that I knew how the story ended, it changed. My kids are delighting in a snowman cookie jar filled with cookies that was sent by who they call Surprise Grandma just a week ago. Emptying ourselves of all the catches and attachments and foreclosed stories sometimes is as delicate as releasing our senses to listen to a story on the radio. Sometimes it looks like crying in the car to catch your breath, for you are so afraid of what is next. Sometimes it means a quiet moment staring at the tree sustaining your life. And sometimes it's fighting like hell for the living. And And maybe that's the edge of enlightenment. The awareness of your connections and ability to quiet the ego enough to see that shimmer in the interdependent web of which we teach and speak, but do we feel? Do we feel that web and the way it sustains our lives, the way it holds us, the way it comes back in miraculous and unexpected and uncontrollable ways? A few weeks ago, I was looking in the attic here at Beacon through the archives when I came across a celebration of religious education at Beacon across the decades. And honestly, I almost just shifted it aside because it wasn't what I was looking for, and it didn't sound exactly enthralling of a reading on a Monday afternoon. But I stopped, and I read through the description of how religious education had changed here and the many directors of religious education, and my eyes fell on the name Sue Goodman, a name I had never heard before. And then a few days later, a longtime member asked me about the tenure of a different director of religious education, which took me to a plaque outside our doors, and I again saw the name Sue Goodman. Then Tuesday, her family called and shared that Sue had passed away after a long journey with vascular dementia, and would I be able to do a graveside burial? When they called, I had the script that Thule has created for the Christmas pageant open. And her son launched into a story of how important the pageant was and how he operated the spotlight when he was a kid. And I said, that's funny because I'm looking at a script for the Christmas pageant right now. And he said, oh, you're doing the pageant again? Apparently there was a time where we stopped doing a pageant here. And he stopped. Todd stopped talking, and I could hear he was choked up on the other end. Without even an awareness of the healing I was bringing and letting him know that this ritual that he cherished as a child and that his mother helped to continue had returned. On a beautiful blue sky day, we gathered where Sue's husband is buried and returned her to the earth beside him. Her son told me about how his father had died from an asthma attack, and I thought briefly of my own son, and on the way home, called the pulmonologist to bump up his appointment. Who knows? The connections. The interdependent web of all existence. Can we believe in it? Can we really believe that we are positively connected, not just negatively impacted, but positively connected and held, gifting each other healing and ease, even generations apart, that time in this web need not be linear. Look east, beloved, toward the sunrise. See the night sky as a blanket to a weary soul. Hold the joy of this season, even as hearts break and minds fill with worry. Imagine a world that we only dream about. Hold it as lightly as a teacup. And then wait with me, would you? For that cup to be filled once more. Amen.
Our closing song is hymn number 226, People Look East. I invite you to stand in body or spirit and join in singing. It's 226. People look east, the time is near, all the crowning of the year. Make your house fair as you are able, trim the hearth and set the table. People look east
Would you take hands as you're able? Isn't this not miraculous? Hand to hand, hoping one another across generations, ordinary miracles. Sparkle, sunrises as faithful as you, beloved. Dare to wonder in these days. And when the waiting is hard, may you know the warmth of this hand, the sound of our voices, the strength of this web. So may you journey in safety, in love, in the miraculous. Amen.